Ladies and gentlemen, life is suffering. That's an undeniable fact. But suffering alone is not enough. It is insufficient as a reason to collapse, to surrender to nihilism, to claim that existence is meaningless, because embedded within suffering is the very thing that can transform you into something more than you are, into something worthy of the trials that life throws at you. Throughout history, we see this archetype, the one who wrestles with the divine. Jacob wrestles with God in the night and emerges transformed, wounded, yet stronger. And that is a deeply significant metaphor, because to wrestle with God is to struggle with the deepest truths of existence itself. It is to stand at the abyss, to gaze into the darkness, and to refuse to be consumed by it. But let me tell you something, this struggle is not optional. You are already in it. Every day, whether you acknowledge it or not, you are engaged in a battle between chaos and order, between ignorance and knowledge, between cowardice and courage. And you will either wrestle with these forces voluntarily, or they will crush you beneath their weight. Wrestling with God is a deeply significant metaphor for the human struggle to find meaning in the face of suffering and hardship. It encapsulates an idea that stretches beyond mere theological or religious significance and moves into the realm of universal human experience. This struggle is not just something that we observe in mythological stories or ancient texts. It is something that each of us engages with daily, whether we are conscious of it or not. At its core, wrestling with God is about confronting the inherent suffering that defines human existence. Life, as we know it, is filled with challenges, setbacks, and periods of chaos. No one is immune to the trials of life, no matter their status, wealth, or intellect. We all experience moments of despair, moments when the world seems unbearably heavy, and moments when we question whether the pain is worth it. Yet it is within these moments that the potential for transformation lies. Wrestling with God is not just about the suffering itself, but about how we respond to it. It is about confronting our pain with the courage to seek meaning, even in the darkest of times. Think about the biblical story of Jacob wrestling with the angel. Jacob doesn't simply submit passively to God's will. He engages, struggles, and fights. It's a violent and exhausting contest, but ultimately it's through that wrestling that Jacob is transformed. He walks away with a new name, Israel, meaning one who struggles with God, and a new identity. This transformation is powerful. It suggests that the act of confronting suffering head-on, the willingness to struggle through hardship and doubt, is itself a path to something greater. Through suffering and struggle, we develop resilience, wisdom, and strength. These qualities are not gifted to us. They are earned through engagement with the chaos and uncertainty that pervade our lives. This metaphorical wrestling with God speaks to a deeper truth about the nature of meaning itself. Meaning does not come from comfort, from the absence of challenge, or from the avoidance of hardship. Meaning is forged in the fire of suffering. We find meaning when we choose to take responsibility for our lives, when we make the conscious decision to confront our fears, our doubts, and our limitations. It is the willingness to engage in this struggle, to look suffering in the eye and say, "I will not be broken by you," that creates a sense of purpose. Furthermore, this struggle is not only internal, but also external. Wrestling with God is an outward expression of the inner turmoil we feel as we navigate a complex world. Every person who seeks to find meaning in their lives, every person who seeks to overcome the challenges they face, is in some sense wrestling with God. This is true in the literal, religious sense for many, but it is equally true for those who may not believe in a divine figure. Wrestling with God can be understood as wrestling with life itself, with the unknown, with our own mortality, with the complex forces of nature and society that shape our existence. In that sense, to wrestle with God is to confront the broader questions of human existence. Why are we here? What is our purpose? How can we live meaningful lives in a world that often seems indifferent to our struggles? Yet, it is important to note that wrestling with God is not a struggle for the sake of struggle itself. It is not an endless cycle of conflict without resolution. The struggle is purposeful. It leads to something transformative. In the case of Jacob, the struggle resulted in his blessing, a new identity, and a deeper connection to the divine. This shows us that struggle, when engaged with properly, has the potential to lead us to places of growth, understanding, and connection that we could not have reached otherwise. The key to understanding this struggle is recognizing that it is not just about external circumstances, but about how we approach the suffering that inevitably arises in our lives. We are often taught to avoid pain, to seek comfort, and to reject suffering whenever possible. However, when we do this, we miss the deeper lessons that suffering can teach us. Suffering, when confronted with the right mindset, can become a teacher, a guide that leads us toward greater wisdom. It can help us discern what truly matters in life and give us the strength to pursue it with vigor. Additionally, the struggle itself forces us to confront our limitations. Wrestling with God means acknowledging that we are finite, that we do not have all the answers, and that we are not in control of everything. It is a humbling experience, one that challenges our pride and our desire for certainty. But in this humility, we find growth. We learn to accept the mysteries of life, to understand that some things are beyond our comprehension, and to find peace in the uncertainty. The more we wrestle with the mysteries of life, the more we come to terms with the fact that we will never have all the answers. Yet, paradoxically, it is in this acceptance of the unknown that we find deeper peace and meaning. In conclusion, the metaphor of wrestling with God is one that calls us to engage with the suffering, the chaos, and the uncertainty that we encounter in life. It invites us to confront these forces head on, to struggle through them, and to emerge transformed. It teaches us that meaning is not found in avoiding pain or escaping from hardship, but in learning how to navigate it with courage, responsibility, and faith. Those who wrestle with God do not retreat into passivity. They confront the world's challenges with a sense of purpose and a willingness to learn and grow. In the end, it is through this struggle that we discover our true potential and uncover the deeper meaning that makes life worth living. To wrestle with God is to confront the reality of free will, the terrifying yet liberating power of choice that defines the human experience. Free will is not a luxury or a gift that we are always comfortable with. It is a profound responsibility. It's one of the most fundamental aspects of being human, the ability to make decisions, to determine our course of action, and to shape the world around us. Yet this ability to choose comes with immense weight. It is easy to mistake freedom for a mere opportunity to indulge, but in truth, the full nature of free will is far more challenging, for it places on us the responsibility to act rightly, to make meaning of our lives, and to deal with the consequences of those decisions. When we engage with the concept of wrestling with God, we are also engaging with the reality of our freedom. The very act of wrestling suggests an active involvement in life, a resistance to passivity, and a refusal to let life simply unfold according to fate or circumstance. In wrestling, we make choices. We decide how to struggle. The act of struggle itself embodies the idea that nothing in life is handed to us without effort. But this effort, the decisions we make during our struggles, are what ultimately define us. In this way, free will is not just about the ability to choose, it's about the responsibility to choose well. In the context of wrestling with God, free will becomes more than just a simple matter of deciding between two paths. It's about engaging with the very essence of existence. Our relationship with truth, our sense of purpose, and our understanding of what is good and just. The choice to struggle with God is not merely a physical act. It is a moral and spiritual one. It is a declaration that we will not run away from the difficult questions, the challenging aspects of life, but will face them with all the courage and tenacity we can muster. Free will, when exercised fully, forces us to confront the limitations of our knowledge. None of us knows the future. We can plan, we can strategize, but in the end, we can only make decisions based on the information and understanding we have at the moment. To wrestle with God is to recognize that there are limits to our control, and yet, paradoxically, It is through these limitations that we are called to act. We cannot control the outcomes of every decision, but we do control how we approach those decisions. We can choose to act with integrity, to seek truth, and to make choices that align with our values. We may not know where the path will lead, but we can choose to walk it with courage and conviction. This notion of free will also means that we are held accountable for our actions. Wrestling with God entails recognizing that the choices we make are not without consequence. Life doesn't simply unfold as a series of random events. It is shaped by the decisions we make, and these decisions have ripple effects. The responsibility of free will is to understand that the way we choose to engage with the world influences not only our own lives, but the lives of others. It is a call to take responsibility for ourselves, for our communities, and for the impact we have on the world around us. The weight of this responsibility is often felt as a burden. In a world filled with distractions, temptations, and the desire for comfort, free will can be overwhelming. The choices are not always clear. It is easier to passively follow the crowd, to go along with what is easiest, than to confront the difficult truths that lay before us. But it is exactly in these moments of difficulty that our free will matters most. It is when we face a choice between what is easy and what is right, between comfort and growth, that our true character is revealed. To wrestle with God is to take ownership of our freedom. It is to acknowledge that while we may not be able to control everything in our lives, we can still control how we respond. This active response is central to the human experience. It is not enough to simply react to the world. We must engage with it thoughtfully, intentionally, and with a sense of moral clarity. We must choose to act in ways that align with our highest values, even when those choices require sacrifice. The power of free will is not simply in the decisions we make, but in the process of becoming who we are through those decisions. However, this process of wrestling with free will is not an easy one. It requires us to face discomfort, doubt, and uncertainty. It means grappling with questions that have no simple answers. Do we live for immediate gratification, or do we sacrifice for something greater? Do we act out of fear and insecurity, or do we step into the unknown with confidence and hope? The struggle lies not in the lack of freedom, but in the overwhelming responsibility that comes with it. We may wish for the world to be more predictable, more certain, but the true challenge and the true opportunity lies in navigating the uncertainty with wisdom and courage. In the face of this uncertainty, free will calls us to transcend our animal instincts and to act with purpose. It compels us to step beyond mere survival and to move toward something greater, something meaningful. When we wrestle with God, we acknowledge that there is more to life than merely existing. We acknowledge that the choices we make, however small, are significant. They shape who we are, who we become, and what we contribute to the world. And in this way, wrestling with God is not just about the struggles of life, it is about how we choose to engage with those struggles, how we choose to act in the face of them, and how we take responsibility for the person we are becoming. In the end, free will is a sacred trust. It is not something to be taken lightly, nor something to be abdicated. The wrestling with God is a constant reminder that we must choose wisely, choose with purpose, and choose in alignment with the values that define us. The decisions we make shape our future, and it is in wrestling with those decisions, no matter how difficult, that we find our true freedom. Life is a constant battle between two forces, chaos and order. The tension between these two realms defines the human experience and serves as the backdrop for much of our internal and external struggles. To wrestle with God is to engage with these forces head on. It is a confrontation with the unknown, a deliberate confrontation with the complexities and contradictions that arise when we attempt to impose order upon the chaos that surrounds us. Whether we are conscious of it or not, every day we make decisions that navigate the precarious line between these two worlds. Our lives unfold in the space between the organized, predictable, and structured, and the unpredictable, disorderly, and chaotic. Chaos in its purest form is the unknown. It is the void that we encounter when we venture beyond the comfortable and familiar. It is the realm of uncertainty, fear, and confusion, where everything is in flux and nothing can be counted on. It is in this space that we experience anxiety, doubt, and the overwhelming feeling that we are adrift in a world that offers no clear guidance. But despite the discomfort chaos brings, it is also where creativity and transformation arise. To step into chaos is to challenge the limitations of the known, to break free from the confines of routine, and to explore new possibilities. Chaos is often seen as destructive, but it is also the birthplace of innovation, progress, and growth. Without chaos, there would be no room for change. On the other hand, order is what we impose upon chaos to make sense of the world. Order is structure, discipline, predictability, and stability. It is the rules and frameworks that we create to help us navigate the complexities of life. Order is what keeps us grounded when chaos threatens to overwhelm us. It is the foundation of society, the law that governs interactions, and the systems we rely on to ensure that life can function smoothly. Order offers us safety, certainty, and direction. However, order, if left unchecked or overly rigid, can become stifling. It can lead to stagnation, conformity, and a lack of growth. When we become too comfortable with order, we may fail to see the need for adaptation, for challenging the status quo, or for embracing the potential of what lies beyond the boundaries we've set. To wrestle with God is to engage with both of these forces. It is to acknowledge that life is a delicate dance between chaos and order, a balancing act where we must constantly strive to create meaning out of the tension between the two. It is a recognition that neither chaos nor order is inherently good or bad. Both are necessary components of the human experience. The challenge lies in how we navigate between them, how we find the courage to step into chaos when necessary, and how we maintain the stability of order without becoming rigid and unyielding. This dynamic is particularly evident when we confront the suffering and adversity that life inevitably brings. Suffering often arises from the intrusion of chaos into our lives. A sudden loss, an unexpected failure, or a significant life change can throw us into turmoil, leaving us feeling lost and uncertain. In these moments, we are forced to confront the limits of our understanding, to face the reality that we cannot control everything, and to deal with the disorder that life imposes upon us. Wrestling with God in these moments is about finding the courage to engage with the chaos, to endure the pain, and to learn from the experience rather than retreating into avoidance or despair. But wrestling with God also involves the creation of order in the midst of chaos. It is about taking responsibility for our lives, about finding ways to impose meaning and structure upon the disorder that we encounter. In times of crisis, we must make choices about how we respond. Do we give in to the chaos, letting it consume us? Or do we find ways to restore order, to reestablish control over our circumstances? The struggle to maintain order in the face of chaos is not about avoiding the messiness of life, but about facing it with the determination to rebuild, to organize, and to regain a sense of purpose. The balance between chaos and order is not a static state. It is a dynamic process. As individuals, we must constantly adapt to the changing circumstances of life, shifting between moments of order and moments of chaos. There are times when we must embrace the chaos, when we must step into the unknown and take risks in order to grow and evolve. At other times, we must create order, establish routines, and impose structure to ensure that we remain grounded and resilient in the face of challenges. It is the ability to navigate this dance, this constant movement between chaos and order, that allows us to find meaning and purpose in our lives. The wrestling itself, then, is not just about the struggle with external forces, but also about the internal battle we face to reconcile these two aspects of our existence. We wrestle with our own inner chaos, the confusion, doubt, and fear that reside within us, and we wrestle with the order we impose upon ourselves, the need for discipline, responsibility, and control. The act of wrestling is, in itself, a reflection of the ongoing negotiation between the forces of chaos and order that define our experience. This balance is particularly important in our pursuit of meaning. To live a meaningful life is to confront the chaos, to engage with it, and to create order from it. It is to step into the unknown with the understanding that while we cannot control everything, we can control how we respond. We can find purpose in the chaos by imposing structure, by establishing goals, and by taking responsibility for our actions. We can create meaning by deciding how we will navigate the unpredictable, by making choices that align with our values, and by shaping the world around us according to the order we wish to see. In the end, wrestling with God is about embracing the tension between chaos and order. It is about understanding that life is not a simple, linear path, but a constant negotiation between these two forces. It is about accepting the reality of suffering and uncertainty, while simultaneously creating the structures that allow us to endure and transcend those challenges. It is a dynamic, ongoing struggle, but it is through this struggle that we find the meaning and purpose that make life worth living. To wrestle with God is to face the chaos head-on, to bring order to the disorder, and to find strength and growth in the process. Faith is often misunderstood as blind belief, a passive acceptance of the unknown or unproven. In truth, true faith is not the absence of doubt, but the courage to confront it. It is not the refusal to question, but the willingness to question and still choose to believe, to trust, and to pursue the path of meaning despite uncertainty. To wrestle with God is, in many ways, to engage in a deep, ongoing dialogue with our faith. It is a process that demands that we confront our doubts, test our beliefs, and refine our understanding of what is true and good. Faith, in this sense, is not a static state, but a dynamic, ever-evolving journey that requires active participation, reflection, and growth. Faith is not the absence of struggle. If anything, the more profound the faith, the more intense the struggle. Faith is not about finding certainty in every moment, but about learning to walk with uncertainty. It is the choice to continue moving forward, even when the path is unclear, when the future is uncertain, and when the questions remain unanswered. When we wrestle with God, we are engaging in that struggle, the struggle to understand, to believe, to hold on to something greater than ourselves when all seems lost. It is a refusal to succumb to despair, to nihilism, or to meaninglessness, despite the weight of doubt and suffering. What is it that makes this kind of faith so powerful? It is powerful precisely because it is earned. It is not the result of wishful thinking or naivete, but the result of confronting the harsh realities of life and choosing to continue to believe anyway. It is a faith forged in the crucible of doubt, where we are forced to look into the abyss, to wrestle with the unknown, and to emerge stronger on the other side. This is the kind of faith that transforms, that shapes our character, and that gives our lives meaning and direction. It is the kind of faith that allows us to stand firm in the face of adversity and to endure suffering with purpose. In the act of wrestling with God, we question our beliefs, our assumptions, and our understanding of the world. We engage with the complexities and contradictions of life, knowing that faith does not require us to have all the answers. Faith requires us to be willing to ask the difficult questions, to seek the truth, and to wrestle with what we don't know. It is through this questioning, this wrestling with the divine and the mysteries of existence, that we grow and evolve. Faith is not about reaching a final answer, but about the ongoing process of discovery, of refining our understanding of who we are, what we value, and what we are called to do. There is a kind of beauty in this struggle because it forces us to confront our limitations. It demands that we acknowledge that we cannot control everything, that we do not have all the answers, and that we are not the masters of our fate. This acknowledgement is humbling, but it is also freeing. In wrestling with God, we accept the mystery of existence, and in doing so, we come to realize that our faith is not about mastering all of life's complexities, but about choosing to trust in something greater than ourselves. This trust is not easy. It requires vulnerability. It requires a willingness to surrender our illusions of control and to place our hope in something we cannot always see or understand. But this is precisely what makes faith so transformative. It asks us to let go of our need for certainty and to embrace the unknown with open hands. Moreover, true faith is not about blind acceptance, but about active engagement. It is about doing the work necessary to build and cultivate that belief. It is about seeking truth through action, reflection, and effort. It is not simply an internal state of mind, but a lived experience, something that is demonstrated in the choices we make, the actions we take, and the way we interact with the world. Faith, then, is not something passive, but something that we actively shape and nurture through our engagement with life. It is a call to live according to our highest principles, even when it is difficult, even when it requires sacrifice, and even when we are uncertain of the outcome. When we wrestle with God, we also engage with our own moral compass. Faith requires that we take responsibility for the choices we make, that we act in alignment with our values, and that we strive to live with integrity even when it is hard. The struggle of faith is often not about grand theological questions, but about the daily, small decisions that determine the course of our lives. These decisions are often made in the face of doubt, in the absence of clear answers, and in the midst of life's trials. And it is precisely in making these decisions, in continuing to choose what we know to be right, even when we are unsure, that our faith grows.